real estate space. I'm your host, Sierra Hoffman. And on today's call, we have Christy Keeton of Keeton Realty Investments. So, Christy, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Sierra. It's a very honored to be here. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Now, as usual, I always love to start out by knowing more about your background. So, what did you do before, and how did you get into commercial real estate?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. I love to tell this story because it's kind of a rags to riches kind of story a little bit, the in between.
Hmm.
So I was in oil and gas industry. I was in the oil and gas industry as an engineering technician
Wow.
and about 15 years. And so what I did there is I did all the research and ran all the numbers, did the budget, did analysis
Hmm.
and things like that for the deals that we wanted to go into. So if we wanted to drill a well,
Hmm.
I would be the one to do all of that research. So that was a fun job. I really enjoy it. I enjoy being the engineering side of things and the analysis
Yeah.
side of things. So that was a fun
Nice.
job. In 2019, a few years prior to that, I was asked within the company to do some things that I didn't feel comfortable doing. Um, it was for numbers side of things, right? And I
Hmm.
didn't feel comfortable doing it, and so I refused to do it. So that went on for about 2 years. I'm really surprised it lasted that long, for about 2 years though.
Hmm.
And we finally just agreed that I really didn't need to be there. They were asking me to do things that I wasn't comfortable with,
Yeah.
and so it was a mutual agreement. April 1st of all days of 2019, it was time to go.
Yeah.
So we agreed, mutual agreement. I was going my separate ways with them,
Hmm.
and from there, kind of took a break. But Keaton Realty Investments was um, formed back in 2012 with my son.
Hmm.
He got, the DIY HGTV bug. We can do this,
Yeah.
who doesn't get that bug whenever you're watching that, right?
Right. Yep.
So I said, yeah, let's do this. I'll help you fund it. Let's go forward with it. So
Hmm.
we flipped a few houses, right? And so that I still stayed in the oil and gas industry. We flipped a few houses, and he decided to move to Arizona, didn't want to be in the real estate business anymore. Okay,
Hmm.
fantastic. But I kept Keaton Realty Investments,
Okay.
open for,
Yeah.
you know, flipping houses if I wanted to do that, or any other investments that I wanted to go into.
Hmm.
So in 2019, that happened with the mutual agreement to split.
Hmm.
And I started thinking, all right, I'm just going to take some time off. I'm comfortable right now. Take some time off and find out really which direction I want to go. I really like real estate, so I want to kind of go in that direction, but where do I want to go? Having a few conversations with friends, and then, believe it or not, I saw an ad on Facebook for multifamily investing and that I could own apartments. And I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Normal people, like everyday people, can own apartments. Are you kidding me? I don't know about that. So that's where my
Hmm.
multifamily bug came from, is a Facebook ad of all things.
Wow. I love that.
So I started networking. I
Hmm.
took the education course that Facebook ad actually
Hmm.
got me in. The boot camp that they have, 2 or 3 day boot camp that they have, and the guy that did the 3 day boot camp is Tyler Dubrow, and I watched him and his partners close a deal that week and get a very high six-figure dollar check on an acquisition fee. And I was like,
Wow.
I can do that. I can do that. I absolutely can do that. And so that's where that bug started, was
Nice.
acquisition fees. Wait a minute. How can I get that?
Yes. I think a
Right?
lot of people don't realize that you can make money when you buy. With the
Yeah.
acquisition fee, people think that, oh, I gotta wait till this whole thing actually sells in 3 to 5
Yeah.
years. So they don't know that you can actually get a fee up front for finding the deal and closing
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people about acquisition fees, and basically that fee is something that you get for the entire your broker relationships or your off market relationships, your any type of relationship that you're building. You may have to build that relationship for 2 years before you even see a dime, right, on an
Exactly.
acquisition fee.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth it once you go through. You're doing all of the broker relationships. You're you know researching the markets, you're researching the property itself, what's the history of the property, then you're going to raise the money. That So all of that in one is your
Mm-hmm.
acquisition. And the investors don't know how to go out and find their own, properties and deals like that, or they just don't have the time.
Yeah.
And that's what they pay you the acquisition fee to do, is just to go
Mm-hmm.
out there and do your thing and do what you
Yeah.
do best, and bring them, things that they can invest in that's going to help them, retire early from whatever job that they're doing. So yeah, I
Exactly.
love to research and find those deals.
That's super exciting. So
Yeah.
2019 is when you started getting into multifamily. So it's been
Yes.
what, just over 3 years now, 3.5 maybe?
Yes. Yeah. So multifamily, the education part of it started in August of 2019, and of course they teach you about networking. Networking is one of the biggest deals that has got me where I am today, is the networking. The education was good, the networking
Mm-hmm.
was better, because
Yeah.
the more people that you network with, the more educated you get through those people and their
Mm-hmm.
experiences. So I met some of my capital partners at one of the largest networking events, and Kim Winland is one of my partners from Quattro Capital,
Mm-hmm.
and she said two Texas girls and we're not friends. I don't understand this. So I'm like, yeah, let's be friends. And
Yeah.
so we started building a relationship, a friendship, and she found me. I was doing another flip house at the end of 2019, just just because I
Mm-hmm.
found it was a good deal. And so I was flipping that house, and I was behind the detached garage on the phone with an investor, because at
Mm-hmm.
that point I hadn't found a deal, but I was searching for a deal, and I was
Yeah.
searching for investors to invest in deals that I didn't even have yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the phone with an investor, trying to talk him into investing in a deal that I didn't have yet. And she comes around the corner and she said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "It's an investor." So I hung up, and she said, "All of the hammers and the drills and saws and everything going on, and you're back here doing this?" Yes, we're gonna be partners. So so that's how we ended up partners, right? So in
Nice.
2020, pandemic hits.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everything's kind of shaky. I know where I'm at, as far as I don't really want to um, be where I am physically, because I have grandchildren in Georgia, grandchildren in Arizona. So I'm like, okay, so which way? Well, the one in Arizona had not quite been born yet, but I was like, okay, which way? I need to do something, because at that point, all of my money was in that flip house. So every dime that I had, I was like, and then $150,000 in credit card debt as well on top of all that. That's where I ended up, at the beginning of 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, all right, I've got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I decide I'm moving to Georgia. My son calls me and says, "Hey, why don't you just come and move into our basement apartment? We don't have anybody living there." And so that's where I ended up, is in Georgia, in a basement apartment. Um, Blessed. That's all I can say, is I was blessed to at least have that, right? Um,
Yeah.
so at that point, I had gone from a six-figure job
Mm-hmm.
to uh, where I was out at a flip house. And at the end of the flip house, it ended up to where contractors had walked away with some money. I had used some new contractors that I didn't know. They were recommended by people, um, friends of mine that I did trust, and they had walked away with some money. Um, so it was really hard for me to try to get things done. I had friends coming in helping. I had family that had come in to help. And we finally got that done and on the market. But I had lost everything except for my vehicle. I didn't have, a home anymore, didn't have anywhere to go. So I moved to Georgia into the basement of my son's house. Nobody had lived down there in a few years. And so I was blessed to at least have shelter to go to.
Mm-hmm.
After I moved to Georgia is where I started really digging in to real estate, the multifamily part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I started going to doors, shaking hands, talking to brokers. What can I do? How can I build? Of course, people say LoopNet is trash. I don't believe everything on LoopNet is trash. LoopNet is a multifamily, kind of like a multifamily Zillow, if you will. Um, so I started looking on LoopNet. What deals can I find? What brokers can I find?
Mm-hmm.
So I found a deal in College Park, Georgia. It did not fit the criteria. I even drove out there. It was a 2.5 hour drive out there. I drove out there, look at it. I was like, look, there's a Walmart that shut down right there across the street. If there's a Walmart that shut down, that could be a problem. So I was like, I don't think this is where we want to go.
Yeah.
So, so I called the broker and I was like, man, this one's not exactly what we want, but what else do you have that you can send me that we can look at?
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the relationship that I have with those gentlemen still today, that brokerage. Yeah, so we started looking at deals that they had off market. They're like, no, nobody's seen this one yet, so we went and looked at it. It's 157 units in Atlanta. Took our property management company with us, went over there, walked it with the broker. He really started fighting for us to get it because he liked our process of taking our property management company with us, taking pictures, really getting the feel of the property before we
Mm-hmm.
even made a legit offer on it.
Yeah.
And he really liked that process. So that's where we started was with that broker there in Atlanta. That particular deal we put an offer in on and we were first in line. First in line.
Nice.
Broker's like, it looks like y'all got it. We're like, yes, we got it. And then he calls me the next day after the best and final offers were accepted, right?
Uh-huh.
Calls me the next day and says, "You're not going to believe this." And I was like, "What's up?" And he's like, there's a guy that owns a property around the corner that just put in an offer and he's going a lot of money down, hard money, you know." And I'm like, "No, well, we don't do hard money. So we can't do that."
Yeah.
So we ended up losing that deal. The brokers felt so bad that they gave us another one that
Mm.
they that they hadn't taken to market yet,
Yeah.
and we ended up getting that one. It's 110
Good.
units in the Atlanta area as well. So all of 2019, then 2020 hits, the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic hits. I work my my rear off really, getting these brokers, really trying to get these brokers to contact me and it's
Mm-hmm.
not easy. It's not easy, especially whenever they just have a hint that you can't close a deal. They're like, no,
Yeah.
no, sorry, we've got somebody else. But
Right.
we closed that 110 units, and that was my very first deal. Everybody's like, "You're not going to get 110 units your first deal." I got 110 units my first deal.
Love it.
Very first deal, Atlanta, Georgia, 110 units in January of 2021,
Perfect. All
and that's
right.
where it started. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they say the first deal is the hardest, and then after that, the second and third, they come quickly after that. So, what did your portfolio look like in the years after?
Yeah, so 2021 was a really, really good year. We got, the 110 units, then the same broker brought us two more deals of over 300 units in those two deals. And then I think by the end of that year, there was another 80 unit deal from another brokerage. So once they found out that we could close deals and that lenders
Mm-hmm.
were serious about us at that point, it
Mm-hmm.
started really looking up. So by the end of that year, 2021, I want to say that we were probably between 650 and 700 units altogether. That
Wow.
yeah, that first year.
Great.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
fast forward to today, how many units do you have right now?
I did have almost 1,000 units, but we just sold 58 unit in Clarksville, Tennessee. So 940-ish. Yeah.
Awesome.
We went full
So,
circle on one of our deals in less than a year and a half.
wow, that's
I
awesome.
know. It's the environment. It's the environment.
Mhm.
I love it. It hasn't been an easy road, but it has been a better road than I was on before. So
Mhm.
I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now in real estate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And because of your background in engineering, you must be really good with the numbers and the underwriting. So is that basically what you're focused on, just finding deals and underwriting them?
That's really what I'm focused on. The finding the deals really entails the broker relationships or even wholesaler relationships. I have
Mhm.
some guys that just wholesale deals, right? They just flip paper, which is
Mhm.
great. I mean, those are some of the best deals because they look for those distressed properties
Yeah.
that might have, holes in the floor or may not have a front door on it or, those
Yeah.
type of things. And those are the best deals if you can find those in good areas. And
Mhm.
so finding those deals with the brokers and the wholesalers is one of my superpowers. So networking, and then the other one definitely is underwriting. I enjoy numbers to the nth
Mhm.
degree. I can't. I'm a weirdo. I know it. I'm a weirdo, but at the numbers, I've always been a numbers kid. So from the very beginning, I enjoyed math.
Now, some of these distressed properties that you're looking at or that you're getting from wholesalers, are they ever really low occupancy, or what kind of occupancy are you usually looking for when you underwrite deals?
Yeah, so the distressed properties usually are low occupancy. So we have an 80 unit in Augusta, Georgia that we bought in May of 2021.
Hmm.
So that one, 80 units, it was less than 30% occupied when we got it.
Wow.
Um, but it also had buildings that didn't even have electric meters on there
Mm,
because of fire.
wow.
So there was two buildings out of the four, five building, two out of the
Hmm.
five that didn't have electric meters. So we got that one like pennies on the dollar. We've doubled
Yeah.
the value in that one in the year and a half, almost 2 years that we've had it.
Yeah.
So it's those I we don't mind high
Yeah.
vacancy
Yeah.
and low occupancy if we know that it's going to benefit our investors,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So if
Uh,
it's in a good area.
so it's in a decent area. Yeah, we'll
Hmm.
take a look at those for sure. I love underwriting those because triple the investor's money
Hmm.
just about on every one of those distress deals. Yeah.
Now, do you have issues with getting financing on those low occupancy properties?
We didn't. We do now, but we
Yeah.
didn't. We didn't back then, right?
Yeah.
Because they saw what it could be. And
Hmm.
so, of course, it's a bridge debt. It's a bridge
Hmm.
loan.
Yeah.
And usually the bridge loan guys are pretty lenient if they see that your business plan can work. They're
Hmm.
pretty lenient on, you know, occupancy. Okay, well, we want it at this number by this date, and they'll give you
Yeah.
18 to 24 months to do that.
Now,
Yeah.
kind of earlier, you said, when you invested into a mentorship,
Yeah.
basically you bought the network, not so much the education. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. What when we I invested into a mentorship as well, but I knew going into it that it wasn't the education that I was purchasing, but it was access to all the people that this person
Yes.
had in their network, and all my partners I've met through this network as well. So
Yes.
definitely worth the investment going into that.
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend if you're able to grab a hold of an education program,
Mhm.
the education does help, right?
Mhm.
But the people that you surround yourself with will educate you even better than the actual curriculum that somebody can give you. You can read books all day long, but
Mhm.
until you surround yourself with like-minded people that have your interest in mind, then the curriculum really isn't going to help if you don't have somebody there
Mhm.
to help encourage you and keep you moving.
Are you underwriting things differently now, just the way the market environment is, or are you doing anything differently to kind of prepare and acquire new properties?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wish it was 2021 again. Yeah, so the main thing that I look for now is if a deal has an attractive assumable loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are looking at that now, but
Mm-hmm.
that's the very first thing that I look for is does it have an assumable loan
Mm-hmm.
that I can grab a hold of, and can I get another loan with the same lender, right? It's called mezzanine debt, supplemental loan, whatever it is, to help
Mm-hmm.
with my business plan if I go forward with the deal. So, yeah, we're definitely underwriting things a lot differently than we were just a few years ago
Mm-hmm.
because, I mean, who wants to pay 7% interest? Who wants to pay
Yeah.
6.5% interest? So if we can assume a loan that has a,
Yeah.
par three,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I would much rather do that for
Yeah.
sure.
So assume the loan. And then
Yeah.
are you finding it difficult or any challenges around having to raise additional capital and not being able to get any other, secondary debt on the property?
I would say not necessarily raising the additional capital because there's still hungry investors out there. There's still investors that want those tax breaks and they want, to put their money somewhere besides a bank that's only going to give them a 0.001% interest or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're still looking to invest. So I don't know that we're having a hard time as long as it's a good deal. I say good deal. It's got to be between a good and a great deal, right? It
Yeah.
can't just be, this is a okay deal. Come and invest with us, right? No, it's got to. I wouldn't say it's got to hit a home run, but it's definitely got to be an outfield, right?
For sure.
In order for them to be interested. But we normally don't have problems
Mm-hmm.
if it's an outfielder, I guess if you will.
And so, can you explain more about mezzanine debt for someone who hasn't ever experienced that or maybe heard that term before? Can you go a little bit more in depth on that?
Yeah, so mezzanine debt is basically just a supplemental loan that you get. So if you're looking at a single family, it's almost, I want to say it's almost like a HELOC or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain it more so than that. It's almost like a HELOC where we can take that money and use it for the value adds that we plan on doing to the property,
Mm-hmm.
renovations, anything like that that we can use it for. That's what the net mezzanine debt would do. And of course, that's going to be at today's interest rates, right? It's
Yeah.
we're still not going to get it at 3%, but a lot of times it's still cheaper debt than it is to raise that additional money
Mm-hmm.
for an 8% on your return or a 7% on the return
Right.
for our investors. So sometimes it's cheaper and
Mm-hmm.
it works better with that supplemental loan.
Now, what's the most challenging thing you've had to overcome in your real estate journey? And is there anything you would have done differently?
I think the most challenging thing that I had to overcome personally was my mindset, right?
Mm.
Um, because in the very beginning, I was rejection after rejection after rejection. No, we don't have anything. No, we don't have anything. And I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
know these guys have things because I can see it. I can see that they have things. So
Yeah.
why are they not, communicating with me? Why are they not? And so in the beginning, I had a really hard time because of the so many no's, and I was getting so many no's that
Mm-hmm.
I was like, am I ever going to get a yes? And so it was total mindset that I had to overcome that it doesn't matter if they say no, keep going because somebody's
Mm-hmm.
going to say yes. And when they say yes, it's going to be a home run for you.
Right. Well, Christy, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where's the
Absolutely.
best place for people to find you online if they want to learn more about you?
So the best place is KeetonRealtyInvestments.com, and that's Keaton with two E's, Keeton. And you can also email me anytime at Christy@KeatonRealties.com.
Perfect.
KeetonRealtyInvestments.com. Sorry.
All right.
That's
Thank
it.
you. So I'll go ahead and
Thank
make
you.
sure that we have the link to your website
Appreciate
in
it.
the show notes below. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. If you guys enjoyed today's show, please write us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Every review helps us to reach more and more people looking to get involved in commercial real estate. Today's show was sponsored by Synergy Capital Investments. To download your free multifamily investment guide for beginners or to schedule a call to learn about our upcoming investment projects, go to thrivewithsynergy.com. That's thrivewithsynergy.com, or click on the link below.